everyone, and welcome to our breakout session, Connect, Commit, Act, Staying Connected, Committed, and Active with American Promise. This session will highlight American Promise's Empowerment Department, which brings inspiration, leadership, connection, skills, programs, trainings, and tools to enable every American who shares our core beliefs of equal rights, human liberty, democracy, and republic government to do what they are enabled to do and wish to do to advance the American Promise Amendment. I just want to make note that we will have some time at the end of this session for your questions, and I welcome your comments as well. Please submit your questions in the comment section on the right-hand side of your page, and we will try to get to as many questions as possible. And also, please post your comments as well, as we definitely would love to hear from you all. And tonight we have a great panel for you all for discussion. Some of American Promise's very top chapter leaders, and Brian Boyle, who is a part of the American Promise family. So I will introduce them before we dive into our panel discussion. So from American Promise's New Jersey chapter, we have Dr. Marie HenselderKimmel. After retiring from 24 years of medical practice of OBGYN in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Dr. Marie was inspired by gridlock in healthcare policy to engage in citizen advocacy to address the overpowering influence of money in politics. She co-founded one of the first chapters of American Promise in New Jersey in 2017 as the Tri-County chapter, and now is one of the New Jersey state leaders. Dr. Marie is also one of the leaders who began an initiative for healthcare professionals for American Promise after our last National Citizens Leadership Conference. So Dr. Marie, welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Honored to be here.
Next, we have Mr. Sean Callahan from American Promise's Massachusetts chapter. Sean is the volunteer chairperson for our chapter in Massachusetts. He lives in Cambridge and works full-time as a project manager at Pegasystems Incorporation. Sean grew up in Connecticut and has lived in Greater Boston since 2013. He has a BA from St. Lawrence University and an MS in Global Studies from Northeastern University. Sean, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you very much, Dr. Jessica.
And last but certainly not least, we have from American Promise's Senior Legal Counsel, Pro Bono, Mr. Brian Boyle. Brian lives in Central Massachusetts, where he oversees a family-owned insurance brokerage and serves on his town's finance committee. Before becoming a small business owner, Brian was a litigator in a national law firm and clerked on the Massachusetts Appeals Court. He earned his BA from Harvard College and his Juris Doctorate from Cornell Law School. As someone who benefited enormously from community support when he was growing up, Brian is a big believer in the power of local action to improve people's lives. He's also very passionate about cross-partisan efforts to improve our constitutional democracy and is honored to be able to contribute to American Promise's mission. Brian, welcome and thank you for being on our panel tonight.
Good evening, Dr. Jessica. It's great to see you and everybody else. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this breakout session will, our panelists will provide some testimonials, detailed information on what American Promise also has to offer. We'll hear later in this discussion from our empowerment coordinator, Marty Walsh, and also our business network manager, John McCree. So we're going to dive right into our panel discussion. And the first question that I have for each panel, just to please take a few moments to speak about how you were first made aware of American Promise and how you made the decision to become involved in advancing our vision and mission here at American Promise. And we can start with you, Dr. Marie.
Okay, thank you very much. So I was very concerned as a physician, taking care of patients and seeing so many areas of difficulty with their access to healthcare, to affording medications, and various other issues. It was an increasing concern for me. And when Citizens United decision was passed down, I thought, uh-oh, we're in bad trouble here. And sure enough, I saw the influence of lobbying and donations by healthcare insurers and pharmaceutical companies influencing policy that just seemed to be more and more tilted to favor those big donors rather than benefiting policies that would benefit my patients. So that frustration plus various other policy issues that had nothing to do necessarily with healthcare, but where there seemed to be a majority of American citizens that favored a common sense solution, and yet it couldn't get passed in Congress. And again, money was in the situation, unfortunately tilting the situation. So I was looking for an organization to join to do something. I had retired, and I have some organizing skills for tennis leagues and that sort of thing, and can use my brain a little bit. So I wanted to do something, but I couldn't find an organization to join. But in early 2017, I'd found a little bit of information about American Promise, but there weren't any chapters around, and I really didn't know too much about it. And I was able to attend a lecture not too far from me by Sam Daly Harris, who I knew was somehow connected to the advocacy model that American Promise was going to be using. And he lectured about how to find a grassroots group that was worth joining, that was going to provide both education and empowerment with an effective strategy and a model for people to get involved. And I sat through the lecture, and by the end of that hour-long lecture, I knew American Promise was the group that I had to get involved with. And interestingly enough, the person who had arranged the meeting was a business librarian who is my co-founding leader of American Promise Tri-County, New Jersey chapter, Joan DeVore. So that started me off on the work that I've been doing for the last 4 years.
Great. And we are very thankful to have such great leadership like you, Dr. Marie. So let's move on to Sean.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Jessica. I think listening to Marie's story, I think I have a much more haphazardous approach to my path into American Promise, because when I was 20 years old, that's when Citizens United was passed in 2010. So for me, nearly my whole politically active, adult life was in this system that we have, right? So it's something you kind of are used to and you don't really think too much about. But then in 2018, here in Massachusetts, there was a ballot initiative that was passed, thanks actually to a lot of really, really committed volunteers who are with the chapter now, and Jeff Clements, who's heading up American Promise, and many others. A ballot initiative that passed this to form a citizens commission that would, in the Massachusetts, research and present findings on the issue of money in politics. And it was just a yes or no ballot question. And I went to the polls in 2018 to vote and saw the ballot question and thought, yeah, that seems like a reasonable thing. Form a commission, research it, more information is better. And I also made a mental note to follow up with that, outcome and essentially track what was going to come of that. And that's what led me to American Promise, which was involved quite intimately with that movement and that ballot initiative. And it was really a process of great outreach from American Promise to me, to give me some background information, get me onto some calls that were happening with a fledgling chapter in the state, and kind of encouraged me that if I was really interested in this, they needed someone to kind of step up and run some meetings and take some notes and get my foot in the door that way. And that's how I ended up heading up the Massachusetts chapter. But I think I hope I can serve as an example of someone who's not necessarily seeking out political volunteerism or any sort of outside work, extracurricular, but still manage to find a way to contribute and be a part of a movement that I think is really important.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Sean. Brian.
Yeah, I think the universe was conspiring to get me American Promise, because Citizens United was actually decided the year after I graduated from law school. And I was involved in a local bar association, and I would go to events just to hear practitioners in the community talk about different issues. And actually, Jeff Clements came to talk about the decision and about just the issue of money in politics in general. And I just sat through and I listened to him and some of the other folks, and it just kind of like clicked, I had gone to law school, but this sort of clicked into place where I understood that money in politics posed this like deep structural impediment to self-government. And so I was like converted on the spot to the importance of the issue. But then actually getting involved was 8 years later, after my son was born. I got a text from a friend on the other side of the country who said, "Oh, I saw that American Promise now has a position posted for a volunteer, like, legal position. You should think about it." So I was like, "Oh my God, this is perfect." So I put together a little letter and I sent it. And of course, it was like Jeff Clements who got the letter. And then that was 3 years ago. And ever since, it's been some of the most fulfilling work I've ever had the opportunity to do.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for those very well thought out answers. And just kind of, thinking about this amendment and thinking about the difference that we're, trying to make within our states and within our constitutional democracy. In your words, what is the number one way that we can make a substantial difference in our states to be able to advance this amendment? And we can start with you this time, Sean.
Sure, yeah. So I would say think deeply about the issues you care about, the big entrenched issues, the wicked problems, right? Like if you care about climate change, if you care about corruption, if you care about prescription drug prices and healthcare, think about the things that motivate you and move you the most. And then think about what you could accomplish in those issues if there were not huge amounts of spend stacked up against that. And that, I think, is the way you unlock a lot of these other problems that people are deeply passionate about. I care deeply about so many things I want to improve. So, it's almost hard to choose which cause to commit yourself to in this day and age. There's so much that a lot of people want to improve. And I think that the common denominator, at least in this country, is a deep well of money and resources that is conspiring to keep things going a certain way. And so I think that for people in my state and probably elsewhere, if you consider the things that you care the most about and really want to make a difference in those issues, you'll probably land on this as a common element throughout all that.
Thank you. Brian?
Sure. So I guess I would say everybody should commit to trying to become a world-class listener. And what I mean by that is, like, I am a firm believer that listening is a skill that requires kind of the same level of practice and study that learning to play a musical instrument or something. Like I think it's a superpower. And I think it's a superpower that we need in our work, because in order to connect with an elected official, in order to connect across party lines, in order to connect across any lines, you need to be able to really carefully listen to what somebody else is saying and then try to find just a human shared value. And so I think that would be the thing. I mean, I really want to encourage people to, like, ask your friends, ask your colleagues for feedback on your listening, seriously, and just say, like, wow, like, how can I become a better listener?
Yeah. And that's, being an effective listener is always great. I always, say, I try to live by the model that, that we shouldn't listen to respond, we should listen to understand. And, that's really key in the work that, we're doing, because, we're huge advocates for this amendment and huge advocates for our populations, oppressed populations. So, we definitely have to be able to listen to understand and meet people, where they are. Dr. Marie.
So I have a slightly different take on, I'm going to come at this a little bit as an organizer. I feel like I've been doing a deep learning process in the last 4 years about being an organizer. And this is the way I would look at it. A journey, there's the saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And we are looking at a process that's a marathon, not a sprint. Winning a constitutional amendment is a many-year project. And so the listening and the thinking, the deep thinking that Sean talked about what issues bother you or concern you other than money and politics is really important. But my advice would be, take the first step and bring somebody along with you. Because if you take that first step and you reach out, because if you think about what we all said about how we got into this, Somebody talked to us and somebody invited us to something that we then said, yeah. And we bought into it, and we took another step, and we took another step, and here we are. So that would be my, and it doesn't have to be a big step. It doesn't have to be signing on as pro bono counsel,
right?
And starting the first chapter or one of the first 3 chapters in a state, or taking on, rebuilding a chapter, building a fledgling chapter. It could be something small. It could be sending in a letter to the editor. It could be signing the citizen pledge. It could be so many little things, and they all add up, and they take you along this journey that gets us closer and closer to the amendment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, here in the empowerment department, we definitely try to inspire to empower. And, we want to inspire and empower you, American citizens, to let them know they actually have a voice. Your voices can be heard, and like you said, Dr. Marie, you just take one step. You don't have to jump out and be a chapter leader off the top. Just take one step. And that could be something as simple as just educating yourself on what it is that we're doing. So with you all as current leaders within American Promise, what would you all say empowers you to continue doing this work? And we will start with Brian first this time.
Sure. So I'll say 2 things. The first, I think, is probably obvious to anybody who's been involved in this, which is that the other people who are doing this work are just so amazing, and they just have such heart and humanity. So that is really empowering. The other thing is more of a personal thing to me, which is that my faith really revolves around this idea that every person is sacred and worthy of dignity. And I think that not only is that value driving the work that American Promise is doing, but it's the thing that reminds me that even when I'm engaging with somebody who is really testing my patience, I just try to remember they're a beautiful and sacred person too. And I just try to reconnect with that, no matter how hard it is in the moment. But that's, for me, I find that grounding value really empowering.
Yeah. And, it's very interesting that you say that, because, as you all know, my background is in social work, and, according to our, code of ethics, we value and honor the dignity and worth of a person. So, just being able to, like you said, just understand that, they are human, and, people that you interact with, and, again, just meeting people where they are. So, I like that you're channeling your inner social work. Dr. Marie.
So I would have to say that, I've been involved with American Promise for the last 4 years, and it is amazing to look back just over the last 4 years and see what has been accomplished. First of all, just the building out of the chapters that we have so far, but to see that there have been 3 new states that have signed non-binding, signed on to basically non-binding resolutions calling for the resolution. And we had the first bipartisan amendment resolution in the last session. But I think what empowers me the most is getting back to the advocacy in Sam Daly Harris's model. He talks about that empowerment of challenging yourself to take on something that is outside of your comfort zone and say, I'm going to take this on. I'm going to see what happens. And when you push yourself and you find out, hey, I can do that, and how inspiring you inspire yourself, it's very satisfying. But as a chapter leader and now sort of a state coordinator, I'm very, very empowered to see the successes and the increase in confidence and the increase in abilities of chapter members. And I've seen, chapter members that had no experience in public speaking, no experience in doing any kind of, organization or attending meetings with members of Congress. And I have chapter members that this week took on moderating the roles in lobby meetings that would barely want to open their mouths to tell a personal story 3 years ago, and have, written letters to the editor and have done other things that they never thought they could have done 3 years ago. And that is just so satisfying to see that. And then it just builds the inspiration to go on and continue the fight. So that's my source of empowerment.
Very rewarding. Yeah. Sean.
Yeah, I can echo both of those sentiments for sure. Definitely, Brian talking about the people and how empowering it is to see others step up and succeed, and Marie's point as well. As someone who's coming at it from a non-organizer, Marie, what you said actually resonates quite a bit, because it is outside of my comfort zone to do a lot of this, and so I feel empowered. Largely from folks who have already been doing this work for years ahead of me, who have sort of been beating the streets and trying to, slowly lift this giant thing one extra yard toward the finish line. I can also add that I feel very empowered by the folks at American Promise, who, like, actually without whom I would not actually be involved at all, because they did the extra outreach to me as a regular guy. And then another thing that I would just quickly add, as more of a personal philosophy, I know, Brian, you spoke about a personal philosophy as well. I have a view of leaving it better than you found it. And so trying to apply that just across whatever you do in life, whether it's, picking up after yourself when you go to the picnic and grabbing an extra piece of trash, or trying to find a way to commit your regular day-to-day life to something that's, more than just a job, more than just like the day-to-day kind of making your way through. Hoping that this kind of work will lead to a better place for my children and grandchildren. Even if I play a very, very small role in that, I will consider that worthwhile.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, as we bring our session and our conference to a close, we definitely want to, welcome people to, get involved with us, and like Dr. Marie said, you don't have to, start out in such a huge role like, you see Sean, Brian, and Dr. Marie, just start out, small, whether it be educating yourself or, just writing a letter to the editor. So, to my great panelists, to my great panel here, just share with us one word that you would like to use to inspire our guest tonight. And you all can pick who wants to start first this time.
I'll go. My word is truth, because I really believe the truth is on our side with what we're doing. Yeah. I really believe it's on our side.
Great.
I'll go. My word is action. Do something, any tiny thing. And then the inverse of that is inaction. With inaction, we won't make any progress. But with action, each individual taking one action will, in aggregate, carry us far.
And mine is momentum, because we have had, even though we have faced a very difficult year, COVID shut down so many connections among people. It made it very difficult to do some of the things that we had really made a lot of strides at doing the previous year with tabling and holding public education. And we hit a little bit of a stutter step there, but we really are making progress on our digital organizing, and now that's turning into, hopefully soon, in-person organizing. And I think that this conference is just tremendous. And I just feel like we have a lot of momentum. So come join the momentum.
Come join the momentum.
Well said.
Well, Dr. Marie, Brian, Sean, we certainly here at American Promise value everything that you do for our organization, everything that you're doing for this amendment, everything that you're doing for our Constitution, for our citizens, everything that you're doing. You're very appreciated. Thank you, all three of you all, for taking the time tonight to be a part of our panel. And, we just, want to, continue to empower you all as leaders to, bring in more people and, let's get this amendment passed, and let's keep, fighting for our, for our rights, and making our voices be heard. So now on the screen we will have come up Marty Walsh, who's our empowerment coordinator, and Marty will share with everyone some different ways that you all can get involved in different things that we have going on here at American Promise. So Marty, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Jessica. So the Empowerment Department unifies and empowers one another, specifically our chapter leaders and our volunteers. My role as the Empowerment Coordinator is to conduct nuanced and interactive trainings, formulate new relationships with chapters, advocate for the amendment, specifically why getting big money out of politics is crucial for our democracy. We have been working closely and diligently on formulating a series of 5 trainings via Zoom for chapter leaders, members, and people who are interested in American Promise. So the first training that the Empowerment Department created is the Friend Banking training. So the purpose of the Friend Banking training series is 1, to inspire you about the importance of bringing new people into American Promise, to join in fulfilling our mission to win the 28th Amendment. 2, to help you be a more confident and enthusiastic spokesperson for our work. And 3, to provide a structure of ongoing support to assist you in succeeding. Throughout the Friend Banking training, participants heard my story of self and were able to identify the importance of bringing new people in through conversations via phone calls, emails, and in person. The Friend Banking training continues monthly in the Barnes. All occurs every 3rd Thursday of the month. The second training and ongoing team we have is focused on writing letters to the editor and having them published along with other media work. North Texas chapter member Ann Drum is the leader of the Writing Letters to the Editor team. Our third training and ongoing team will focus on meeting with elected officials, as many of the chapter leaders and members have been doing the last few days, whether at the local, state, or federal level, and having the meeting with elected officials team each month support each other in having breakthroughs and moving your elected official up the champion scale from opposed, neutral, or supporter, all the way up to advocate, leader, and eventually champion. We have 2 amazing chapter leaders, one who you just heard from, our New Jersey chapter leader, Marie HenselderKimmel, and Minnesota chapter leader, Vicki Barnes, will be co-leading the meeting with elected officials team. Our fourth training and ongoing team will focus on planning and hosting events with or without other organizations partnering with you. California's chapter leader, Laura Nittmeyer, and North Texas chapter leader, Ann Drum, will co-lead the planning and hosting events team. Lastly, our 5th training and ongoing team will focus on the use of social media. Social media is a nuanced tool which will help bring new people into American Promise. New Jersey leader Monica Rodriguez will co-lead the social media team. As we continue to implement and facilitate more trainings, we invite you to attend our current and future trainings by going to the American Promise website, click on Attend an Event Calendar, and register for our call. I'll also be posting the link for our upcoming teams that you can volunteer and get involved with in the chat. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marty, for that informative information. Next, we will have John McCrae, who's our business network manager, and he will provide you all with information on how to get involved with our business network. So John, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Jessica. In this new era of reform and renewal, the business community has a powerful role to play to inspire action. This action will both further our shared core beliefs as citizens and thereby help to level the playing field where businesses can compete solely on the merit and the value they bring to citizens in the marketplace. While our standing and success in the world marketplace are essential for the successful of our vibrant democracy, we must remember what Paul Pullman says, which is, businesses cannot succeed where societies fail. Thus, the Business Network welcomes you to our empowerment community. For an easy first step, please join our LinkedIn group. We are the ones with the cool logo, and I will put our link in the chat here in a few seconds. For the second step, please reach out to me either through LinkedIn or email and chat with me about your background and your geographical location and your views in trends in political spending and pay-to-play politics. We will work closely with Marty Walsh, who you just heard from, our talented empowerment coordinator, and get you involved in a local group of like-minded professionals in your area or state. Let's expand that network of yours. Good things will happen. And then for the more serious Let's Dance third step, please read our business statement of principle, noodle on it, ready to sign it, please do, and then submit it with your personal statement of support. We will feature your words on our website for all to see. And then for the supercharged individuals who want to go all the way, the next three steps would be perhaps giving civic group presentations, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, author a media piece or an op-ed, and lastly, perhaps attend meetings with Congress. And also we have a business resource library filled with all kinds of wonderful collateral, which I'll also put in the chat here right now. So thank you.
All right.
And I'll
thank you
now.
Okay. Thank you, John. Thank you, John and Marty. Actually, as you all have heard, we have great things that are on the horizon for American Promise. And we have our panelists up on the screen again. I definitely first want to express again great appreciation to you, Dr. Marie, Brian, and Sean. Without great leaders like yourselves, we definitely would not be able to continue with the work that we're doing. We, the American Promise family, are grateful for your leadership and dedication to our vision and mission. To our guests, thank you for taking the time to attend our National Citizens Leadership Conference. As we continue to grow our state volunteer-led chapters, we invite each of you to grow with us. And I wouldn't be me if I did not say that I challenge each of you to join us here at American Promise and come volunteer with us. The time is definitely now for our voices to be heard. And, we need to be the change that we want to see in our democracy. It is my hope that, you all feel that you all leave our conference feeling empowered, inspired, and ready to take action. And you can learn more about American Promise at our website, americanpromise.net, where you can sign up for our newsletter to remain in the know, and follow us on Twitter at USA Promise, and also Facebook at The American Promise. Again, we definitely want to invite your comments and questions. I don't see any comments and questions here in our chat box, but if you all have any questions that you want to ask offline, you can reach me. My email is jessicah@americanpromise.net. Again, that's jessicah@americanpromise.net. Marty, who's our empowerment coordinator, hers is martyw@americanpromise.net. And John, who's our business network manager, is johnm@americanpromise.net. And if you're in the state with Dr. Marie and Sean, Brian's kind of internal with us. But if you're in the state with Dr. Marie and Sean, I will let Dr. Marie and Sean share their email addresses with you all tonight for you all to contact them. So Dr. Marie, you can start.
Sure. My contact email is tricounty, T as in Tom, RICOUNTY, APA@gmail.com. tricountyapa@gmail.com.
And Sean?
And I just have my personal email address, which I'm happy to give out as long as you don't spam me, but I'm not too worried about that. It's my initials SM as in Michael, C724 @gmail.com.
Okay. Thank you. And again, Dr. Marie. Good. Again, Dr. Marie is in New Jersey in the Tri-County chapter, and Sean is in Massachusetts. And if you're in a state that doesn't have a chapter, we are looking to expand our chapters in different states. We have 19 chapters right now in different states, and we're looking to definitely expand that, and we will expand that. So, we have a lot to offer. Anyone that's looking to get involved, again, I challenge you all to, reach out to us here at American Promise, go on the website, sign up for the newsletter so you can get, more information. And again, thank you for attending our National Citizen Leadership Conference. Thank you for attending our breakout session. And I certainly look forward to connecting with each and every one of you in the future. Thank you and have a great evening.
Good night.
Thank you, Dr. Jessica.